Hebrews. This is our Prophets of Awakening. This is our Women's Advanced Bible Study night, Thursday night, 27th of April, 2023. The discussion that's going to be inside the class today is can you be pro-black and interracial and be in an interracial relationship at the same time? So that's what we're going to, listen to some dialogue, and then we'll deal with that, bounce off of it. Okay, letting everybody know you can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. A lot of information given through the videos, and these videos will connect dots for you and lead you into the truth of the Tanakh, the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving on the videos, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Okay. And for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by the Lord of Hosts. Shalom and welcome to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our Women's Advanced Bible Study. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer, Psalms, some women help, current events, and then we do a little need to know information, and follow up with Q&A. Then we go into the topic of the room, the discussion, which is being pro-black and being in an interracial relationship. How those two how they work. Okay. So with that being said, I'll do this moment of silence, which is for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's done for us, and bringing about the prophecies pertaining to us in these last days. Okay. Yeah, this Women's Night, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna do our prayer, right? Oh Lord, we come before Thee at this hour and at this time, thanking You for Your and praising You for Your strength and for your love and Your great power. Oh Lord, we come before You with praises because we understand now who You are, and we appreciate You. Oh Lord, we appreciate Your love, we appreciate Your wisdom, we appreciate Your consistency, and we appreciate Your patience and Your understanding, and we understand Your position both in heaven and upon the earth. Therefore, we come this day seeking Your wisdom, Your spirit, and Your understanding. Peace be on You. Okay. Got somebody gonna read a song? Okay.
Shalom. Yes, that was supposed to be Cheryl. I see she dropped off. Something happened. I'll read the Psalms. Um, I will read Psalm 150.
Okay. Good
Which
to
is
go.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Shalom.
You gonna read a song?
Yes, this is Cheryl. I'm reading Psalms 11.
Okay.
It says, "In the Lord, put I my trust. How say ye to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountains? For lo, the wicked behind their bow, they make ready for arrows upon the strings, that they may privily shoot at the upright in heart. If the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. The Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked and him that loveth violence, his soul hateth. Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fires, and brimstones, and 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 horrible tempests. This shall be the poor portion of their cup. For the righteous Lord loveth righteousness. His continuous doubt behold the upright. What I got on there was that David was telling um, Michael that they're doing all the evil in its in the righteous. Well, what's going to happen to them?
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, I would shine a light on verse 6. It says, "Upon the wicked shall he rain snare, fire, and brimstone, and horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup." So, like I was saying before, the wickedness that was being given to us and explained to us in the Old Testament ain't what they saying wickedness is and up today. So we know that he rained down fire and brimstone on the people in Sodom and Gomorrah, and they wasn't Israelites. And so, like I was saying, when you understand it, it's a seed line that came out of the garden. Cain, serpent slept with Eve, got Cain. So that's what he's talking about, the wicked. And so we see the story that happened that happened in Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis, where the angels came and they came to Lot's door and trying to sleep with the men they seen, because these angels have a beautiful countenance. So they came to the door, knocking on the door, and crying about the men because they wanted to sodomize them. And so we see the same thing in what happened during the time of the Levite when his wife he cut his wife up in 12 pieces. Uh, they men came to the door inquiring about him, and he turned around and gave him uh, his uh, his handmaid, and they ended up mutilating them and molesting and raping and did everything under the sun. And so my point is this: it tells you in that story the sons of Belial. Those are just like Abigail, he was the son of Belial. So what's the son of Belial? That's the descendants from the fallen angels, just like the Canaanites. So that's one of the main characteristics of identifying them. You don't just, like I said, homosexuality ain't just come out the blue. It's got an origin, and its origin is when those angels crossed over from their estate and came down and slept with women. They mixed angelic DNA with human DNA. That's the result of it. Perverted uh, countenance. That's where it stemmed from. And that's why the Most High said for us not, when we got into the land of Canaan, he warned us not to mix with those people. Don't mix your DNA with them. Their DNA twisted up, defiled. Okay. Anybody else got any comments on that? Okay, so with that being said, got some women's health.
Shalom, everyone. Um, Hebrews, there's a water alert. Did you know that even though the 1974 Safe Drinking Water Act sought to ensure equal access to clean water, the situation is still resulting in environments where people cannot thrive? According to the CDC, in the most severe system violations, drinking water is contaminated beyond federal standards and can harm human health. We know that clean water is essential to life. However, the climate crisis, outdated water systems, and damaging environmental policies from the administration potentially could lead to disastrous health and home crisis in African American communities. Around the country, the deteriorating water system has a devastating effect, particularly on African American women and children. Bottle fed infants who consume mostly formula mixed with tap water can ingest high levels of lead. As a result, African American children are 3 times more likely than white children to have elevated blood lead levels. High levels of lead may have impacted fetal development, infant health, and contributed to learning disabilities among Black children. Did you know that even during Hurricane Katrina, Black women were among the worst affected? Even before the storm, 37% of Black women and girls in New Orleans were living in poverty, compared to just 9.5% of white women and girls. When Katrina when Katrina struck New Orleans, these women made up 80% of the people unable to evacuate the city before the storm. Even research has shown that the experience of trauma, instability, and extreme loss by these women and girls resulted in long term chronic stress, depression, and ongoing post traumatic stress disorder. The report also found that water violation in these communities persists even after safety concerns are identified. The bottom line is that this is not only an issue in the South, but all over the United States. And we should not have a two-tiered system where the wealthy have access to water that is clean and safe for their families, while low-income communities must accept water and wastewater systems that pose risk to their health. Every human being needs safe, clean water to live healthy lives. I'm going to read Exodus chapter 15, verses 23 through 27. Exodus 15, verse 23. And when they came to Moriah, they could not drink of the waters of Moriah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Moriah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them. Verse 26, and said, If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. Verse 27, and they came to Elim, where were 12 wells of water, and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters. That was Exodus 15, verses 23 through 27.
Okay. Appreciate that information. Anybody got any comments on it? Okay, we're gonna go to some current event.
XRP Army, in today's video, we have a massive video leak of Gary Gensler that you're absolutely not going to believe. if this completely dismantles everything that the SEC has been working for. So do stay tuned until the very end of the video, because there is so many incredible things for us to talk about in today's content. But let's go ahead and talk about XRP first. We can see right here that it is down 1.3% on the day. The volume is absolutely skyrocketing. Now, I've been getting plenty of questions on why this is, and there's a very simple explanation. There have been a couple of sizable institutional sell-offs, and this dumping is not just XRP. Bitcoin and Ethereum are also seeing major losses on the day, and pretty much the rest of the crypto market as a result of that. Now, let's go ahead and first talk about what's happening on a geopolitical front, and then we're going to get to the SEC at the end, because there's some very important things happening right now. As we can see right here, the Chinese yuan has now surpassed the US dollar in Chinese cross-border transactions. Now, why is this important for cryptocurrency and XRP specifically? Well, cross-border, we know, of course, that is really important for XRP, but let's talk about why it's important for cryptocurrency and why this ties into us. So, of course, with the Chinese yuan surpassing the US dollar in Chinese cross-border transactions, this is showing a really strong signal, right? China is making massive leaps and bounds to on-ramp cryptocurrency to their centralized banking institutions and making it more accessible for the average person. While the United States right now is going ahead and actually regulating the space as much as they possibly can. The SEC is constantly overreaching and going ahead and not providing clear guidelines for people who are operating crypto businesses, and they're driving out innovation. And who is taking that innovation in? Well, it is nobody else but China. They're going ahead and saying, we're going deep into crypto right now. We believe in it. The United States has made a fool of themselves, and now we're going to focus more on cross-border transactions. And it's not just China. It's also Russia, it's also Brazil, it's also Argentina, and also U.S. senators are now starting to pick up on this. We can see Ted Cruz, in fact, says he's incredibly bullish on Bitcoin, showing that certain Republican candidates in the United States of America are really wanting to push for crypto adoption because they're seeing the damage the current government is posing on just the entire United States economy. As they push out innovation and they don't provide clear guidelines and they're overreaching and abusing their power, other countries are not just waiting around. They're saying, okay, the United States of America, you're no longer the top dog. Everyone is starting to adopt other currencies, and they're starting to use XRP as well. And, well, we're not just going to wait around for the United States to go ahead and figure this stuff out and abuse their power anymore. If you're threatened by this, there's probably a good reason for it. So you can either get with the program or you can get left behind in the dust. And certain Republican candidates do understand this, and I will give credit where credit is due. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, I really much like your stance on cryptocurrency, so shout out to that. And I do think that Ted Cruz will also very much like XRP if that time does come for a conversation. But we can also see right here that Argentina is going to also start paying for imports in the Chinese yuan, and they are ditching the United States dollar as well. But once again, it's not just China. There are many other countries that are now joining into the BRICS alliance and essentially just saying, forget about it, the United States of America. It's time to have a new top dog on the space. It seems most countries in the world are thinking that is going to be China. So we're hoping here that China is going to continue their current stance on cryptocurrency, because this is going to potentially allow us to see trillions of dollars into our economy. We can see right here, in April, it aims to pay around 1 billion of Chinese imports in yuan instead of dollars. Therefore, after around $790 million of monthly imports will be paid in the yuan, a government statement says. Earlier today, the Chinese yuan surpassed USD in Chinese cross-border transactions. Right, this is absolutely huge, and we're also seeing that Pakistan may also adopt the BRICS currency as well. And we're waiting to see what this currency may be. If you guys think it should be XRP, like
my daughter was diagnosed with medulla.
Okay, so we see that here, that was like 6 hours ago. And we see how these BRIC countries, China and Russia and all of them are they behind the crypto. Crypto is being shunned over here, but BRICS countries are behind crypto, and it's making major leaps and bounds because of that. A lot of people are getting away from cryptocurrency, but these China and Russia and those other countries are building it up. Okay, any comments on that? Okay.
Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Every single year we hear about the debt ceiling dilemma. Once the government reaches the limit, then they have to increase it in order to avoid a shutdown. Essentially, it is the same scenario every single year, and it is precisely what is happening right now. So really quick, why is there a debt ceiling? The debt ceiling, or the debt limit, in other words, is the maximum amount of money that the United States Treasury can borrow. Just a couple of days ago, I wrote on my Substack about how the current debt ceiling bill that was just passed by the House and introduced by Speaker McCarthy might be a step in the right direction. McCarthy himself said that the national debt in the United States is indeed a ticking time bomb and we need to start taking action. So to that end, he introduced a bill to raise the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion, along with limiting federal spending. The key takeaway from that proposal is to cut back on discretionary government spending by $130 billion, which should help us cut budget deficits by $4.5 trillion over the next 10 years. What exactly is discretionary spending, right? The US Treasury on its website tells us discretionary spending is money formally approved by Congress and the President during the appropriations process each year. Generally, Congress allocates over half of the discretionary budget towards national defense and the rest to fund the administration of other agencies and programs. Here you can also see how this process actually works. The first step is for the President to submit a proposal to Congress for review, and it goes from there. Effectively, if you spend more than you make every single year, and if you finance everything with credit, with debt, eventually things will get out of control. With that being said, raising the debt ceiling is what fuels the ever-increasing spending trend in the first place. Let's take a look at the numbers. In fiscal 2023, the United States has already been operating in a $1.1 trillion budget deficit. The spending has been truly out of control, and here's why it matters. If you have to finance everything with debt, then soon you won't be able to afford servicing the debt. In its latest fiscal 2022 report, the amount of money spent on interest payments was a total of $475 billion. That is slightly less than what was spent on education during the same time period. So to put things in perspective, we're spending roughly $1.3 billion in interest payments alone every single day, daily. The value of the US debt is more than the economies of China, Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom combined. The more debt the country takes on through increasing the debt ceiling exponentially in our case, the higher these interest payments will be, and there's no doubt that the interest expense can surpass any other expense category that you just saw in that report, meaning the government will spend more to finance its debt than to fund domestic development projects such as improving infrastructure, running social programs, and many other things. Get
a poreless and perfect complexion with a few swipes.
Steadily growing. It's now at an all-time high. What you see in front of you right now is the United States national debt clock in real time. You can take a look at it yourself on usdebtclock.org. It is quite interesting in my opinion. Right now, US national debt is $31.7 trillion, which is approximately $248,000 per taxpayer. Many don't know that nearly half of all US foreign debt comes from 5 countries. The top 3 lenders are Japan, China, and the United Kingdom. So essentially that is who gets paid when we service our debt, when we make those billion-dollar interest payments. The debt ceiling in and of itself is not the problem, of course. The real issue is the debt. Very frequently we hear that if the debt ceiling isn't raised, once again, the US government would be in default. So effectively what that tells us is that unless we borrow more, we will not be able to finance our own needs. It will be similar to a friend of yours saying that he or she cannot pay their mortgage, that they can't pay utilities or make a car payment unless they get approved for yet another credit card. It is exactly the same thing. If we keep raising the debt ceiling only to incur more and more debt, it will hurt the economy in the long run because the public's confidence will suffer. Access to capital will be reduced, so you will see fewer businesses and lower wages in the United States. And most importantly, we will be spending an increasing amount of money to fund interest payments. The same.
Okay, so we already see all that. You know, everything she's talking about, we already see it already. It's already transforming itself. So, like I said, it's not, when you understand what's actually going on, the place is slowly crumbling. Any comments on that?
Shalom, this is Cheryl. See, by them talking about reparation and saying all this money that the African Americans supposed to be getting,
Guys, we
why
are
they
witnessing.
announcing that when the deficit is so high and then the currency, the money is changing hands?
Right. Go ahead.
Is that just like throw the rock and hide the hand, make you think of something else while they're on the other side doing more damage and making people not look at what's really going on?
Right. Well, the thing about it is that just when the drama they had in 2008, when it comes to reparations, they saying that they can print money when they get ready. That's one of the privileges of having the dollar as the number one currency. So they printed all that money to get out of what happened in 2008. So they're saying why you can't print the money for reparations. Print money for everything else. Yeah.
But they're saying that China and Russia is trying to get their own currency, money, where the dollar will probably be less than 70 cents or something. The dollar will not be effective anymore after Russia and China and the other get their currency going.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So like I was saying, they're saying that why they can't print the money or they printing for everything else. And the reason I'm saying what I'm saying, that it's not going to be U.S. that's going to give us reparations. It's going to be China. China and Russia are the ones staying the game by us giving us reparations and returning us back to our homeland, or back to the African continent. So that's what I was saying. It's more than likely it's going to be Russia and China, specifically China, that's going to release us and fulfill prophecy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. There's some. So yeah, we got one more right here. Play a little bit of that.
This problem. So when you have Kenya now being able to settle oil transactions in their own Kenyan shilling, when you have countries are able to settle oil transactions in the Chinese yuan, moving away from the dollar to settle oil transactions, and when that only gets stronger and bigger, when the Chinese and the Saudi Arabians solidify that new trading transaction away from the US dollar, you're not putting that genie back in the bottle. The United States has had a good run. The United States has had a good 50, 60 years of dollar supremacy after World War II, right? Not anymore. And that is starting to decline. And the major push that we're going to see for the US dollar to be kicked over the edge, kicked off the cliff, is when the Federal Reserve kicks into full gear the new printing of money under the quantitative easing plan that they're going to unfold as we face this recession. What that means is a new flooding of US dollars into the system. Fake money, by the way, not based on anything, not based on gold, not based on silver, not based on real estate, not based on oil. No, fake debt that the Federal Reserve will kick into high gear. And then, of course, moving away from cash. Of course, we had the Bank of England this week admitting that they want to move away from cash And that is where the future is going. So moving away from actual paper and coin currency so that they control the whole process. See, the one thing that still sticks out to them is runs on the bank, right? If you want to get your cash out of the bank, good luck. Good luck going down to your local bank and trying to get your money out, all of your money out. It's not going to happen. They don't have it. They don't have that amount of money. It doesn't exist, right? It's fake to them. It's dollars on a spreadsheet. They don't actually have your cash in a vault somewhere. So imagine moving away from cash or moving away from coins. That's the one thing keeping you, as sort of an enemy, right? Because now you go down knocking on the bank's door and you want your cash out of the bank. Well, now we're a cashless society, so there is no such thing. But you want to transfer those dollars out? Oh, the Fed will make that happen. No worries, no problem, because it's all just fake money anyway. So they'll allow you to move these things around these different accounts because it doesn't really matter. It's all consolidated. So when the Fed starts printing this money in this new round of quantitative easing, which is going to come as this recession unfolds, we are going to see a further devaluing, debasing of the US currency. Mark my words. We're already seeing food shortages, again, on the rise in the United States, prices continuing to rise across the United States. Guys, we are witnessing it, okay? Now, it's not going to happen overnight.
Okay, any comments on
Are
that?
you looking to change?
Any comments on that? So these, pretty much these three videos are showing you how that, where we at when it comes to America in general and our financial situation is gloom and doom. Okay. So with that being said, I got comments.
Yes, shalom. So it's sounding very scary and cautious, because once that happens, like you said, that you're the enemy now, with you demanding your money out of the bank and it's no money to give you, then people are going to start freaking out that they rather see cash in hand to know that they have it versus saying the digital money that's in the bank, which can close down because so many ATM machines locked up. Like you played one of the videos where the whole bank was unable to pull up anyone's account. So this
Right.
is really going to be trying times.
Right. That's what's coming. Trying times. Right. Exactly. The people that's zeroed in there, they'll be prepared, but the average person, they have no clue. Yeah. In the dark on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm not sure if anybody familiar with the next documentary that came out, or the movie about Cleopatra came out on Netflix, and they portraying Cleopatra as being black, and it's a big old uproar with those with Egypt, especially Egyptians over there, the so-called Egyptians over there now. They in an uproar because they're saying that Cleopatra wasn't black, and we noticed about a month or so ago, they was on Karen Hart case about the same situation about, saying that he was giving out false information on the Egyptians. So we're going to play some of this and then we'll talk about it.
I say that I'm 100% Egyptian. I've never been to America. I don't live in America. So I have freedom of speech. I can say whatever I want. I don't need to tiptoe around the terminology. I'm not holding back. I am not racist by any means. I don't have anything against the people that make this show. But my real problem is with the big fish. People whose idea was to make this show, who have hidden agendas behind this show. Because everybody else is just tools. They're just puppets. Like the cast and Jada of these people. This is my history. This is my queen they're talking about.
Yeah, Jada Pinkett, the one behind it.
This is my hero. First of all, I'm just going to start with a short history class. Skip this part if you're not interested, but just to show you the vastness of Egyptian history. Cleopatra is actually closer in time to us than she is to the people that built the pyramids. Pyramids were 2,500 years old to Cleopatra herself. Like, the pyramids were ancient history to Cleopatra. Let that sink in. So a Greek man named Alexander the Great built modern day Alexandria. Once they built Alexandria and took over Egypt, Cleopatra was a direct descendant to the Greeks and Macedonian rulers that came after Alexander the Great. There's been a few different depictions of Cleo's looks that come from sculptures and coins. Some of them picture her as a beautiful woman, and others picture her as somebody with very masculine and sharp features. Everybody can agree that she has a sharp Roman type nose and big eyes. While it's true that we can't pinpoint the exact tone of her skin, it would range from fair to olive or light brown skin, logically speaking. As we all know, the ruling families in ancient Egypt were so protective of their bloodlines that they went as far as marrying their own brothers and sisters. In fact, Cleopatra is actually a product of incest. Parents were actually brothers and sisters, and she married her brother and then killed him and took his throne. But that's a different story. There's absolutely 0 in 100 chance that Cleopatra's bloodline would have picked up chocolate skin and boxer noses. Was Cleopatra Egyptian because she was born and raised in Egypt? Or was she Macedonian Greek because of her ancestors? That's the real question. That's the debate. It's between Greece and Egypt. Who brought blacks in the mix? For saying Mother Teresa was Asian, Mahatma Gandhi was Japanese, or the earth is flat even though we've proved 1,000 times that it's spherical. It's absurd. This is serious. This is not a cartoon. This is historical docu-series. That's not even Cleopatra. This is Cleo culture theft. Cleo lied. This is Cleopatra. Really? This is not even about black and white. This is not even about skin color. But like, look at her. Look at her. Does this look like ancient Egypt to you? If ancient Egyptians were known to be very obsessed with their grooming, they always did their hair in beautiful braids. They went as far as shaving their own hair, putting wigs on just to look very tiny and neat. We're obsessed with.
Yeah, by the way, this is a white girl talking. In case you don't.
Looking beautiful. These are some of the most beautiful women in history. And you're telling me that this is what they look like? I could do better makeup with my toe. And look at her hair. It was socially unacceptable for women to go out with this hair. Whatever this is, it's trending now, but back then it was socially unacceptable for women to go out with their hair frizzy like this and undone, basically. Only people that were going out like this were sorcerers, witches, homeless people, and the crazies. I mean, look at this picture right here. Their clothes. Their clothes are cute. Their hairstyles are devil worshippers. Like, what is this? They called you guys black. They called you black just to separate you from them. But they can't do that to us. You can't come and call us black in our country. You know, I could probably look like this girl when I stay in the sun for 3 hours. I'll probably be the same color as her. But you can tell the difference between me and her. You can clearly see that I'm a different type of people than her. That I come from a different culture. That I speak a different language. Okay, that I have a different background. You know, grouping people based on skin color only exists in America, and this needs to stop, or this needs to be in America. Keep it in America, but don't bring it to us. If you really wanted to say that people of very dark skin color had a role in ancient Egypt, you could have went for one of the Nubian kings or queens. You literally went for our whitest queen. Oh my God. Bottom line is, Cleopatra was not black. There's no way she could have been black. Egyptians were all colors, and they still are. Here's a slideshow of Egyptian people that look exactly like their grandparents. Whether they're dark, they're light, they have curly hair, they have straight hair, they have brown hair, they have dark hair. We are our own people, regardless of our skin color. We are Egyptian. Dark, light, we are Egyptian. Okay? Don't bring your American racism to us. We don't have racism in Egypt. Ancient Egypt was a mixing pot of so many different types of humans that all came together to bring the best of humanity for thousands of years. Can we all just agree to that?
Okay. Any comments on that?
It's not giving. It's not giving any verses or chapters from the Bible. She's giving all her opinions to me.
Right. Exactly. The trick to the whole thing is, to me, is these Greeks are not from Africa. They came to Africa. That's what brought about all these variations in color. They came and lightened up the continent. And they not the original people. The original people was dark skinned. Matter of fact, blue black and dark brown. It wasn't they the reason she looked the way she looked is because of the Greeks came. She sit there and said it herself. But the thing about it is, that's the biggest trick that ever happened. One of the reasons why when you're dealing with somebody when you're talking about who Jesus is, it's so many. I mean, like I got 8 sisters, right? And all 4 of my sisters, they older, and they came up when we had all black schools, and that was one of the things that was portrayed to us. Cleopatra was a black queen. She was like they had her up on a pedestal when it comes to Black America. But like the girl said, it's a wake up call because Cleopatra was a Macedonian descent,
Right.
and that's what people know. So that's one of the things. That's one of those things that conversation with people that I use is you assume Cleopatra is a black woman, but she ain't. That's a lie from Pizza Head. She's Macedonian. The 29th dynasty, the last dynasty was Macedonian, because that's when the Greeks came. And so it's the same way with all these assumptions that they have about the New Testament and not understanding the origins of it and how it came about. Just like she's white, Macedonian, those Macedonians and those Edomites are the ones concocted the New Testament right there at Alexandria, Egypt. And you have to understand their history in order, it's no big, big debate. She was white, but it shed a light on a whole bunch of other stuff when you understand that. Yeah. Any comments? Okay, we're gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody got any questions or comments about anything you want to talk about?
Not at this time.
Okay, let's deal with this right here. Then we're going to the discussion. Okay.
Living as white, does that somehow negate your African ancestors that were enslaved? It's very odd.
Are reparations about being Black in America, or are they about having enslaved ancestors? And what if you're one and not the other? My name is Danielle Romero, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today on the channel. We're going to talk about reparations in America. And you may be wondering, well, what does that have to do with genealogy and ancestry? Well, it actually has a lot to do because you need to be a proven lineal descent of an enslaved person in the United States to be eligible for reparations. So this is definitely a genealogy problem, right? A lot of gray area here. In particular, there's people like me who've been, as some articles say, living as white, who would technically be eligible for reparations if we are talking about lineal descent to enslaved ancestors, but they're not okay with that. And just to be clear, reparations are not on my radar as something that I'm looking to cash in on. Today, I'll be having a conversation with my friend and Creole cousin, Mark Lewis, on a dig in. Who's eligible for reparations and should we even have them? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious about this issue because I can actually see both sides of this idea of restorative justice, but man, there are a lot of pitfalls. So let's dive in.
Hi, I am Mark Lewis. I'm the host of Creole Explained on YouTube. It's also on Spotify. I've also been working in genealogy for a couple of years, so my podcast and YouTube channel deals with all of that, like genealogy, linguistics, with a focus on Creole history and the Creole diaspora.
reparations in America, I think the first question is, well, why is this relevant for a student of genealogy? Because we're both kind of in the genealogy circle.
For reparations, what I've heard and what I've read about it, it essentially, for it to work and how people are trying to administer it, you need to essentially do genealogy, right? Because a lot of people who are in favor of reparations, they want reparations for anyone, not just anyone who has African ancestry, but anyone, because, you know, this is a US thing, they want it to be anyone who has ancestors who were enslaved in the US. So that becomes a problem where it's like, okay, well, slavery ended like over 100 years ago. We can't act like, you know, people around like, hey, were you enslaved? So now we have to go through like a grapevine and find out, like, some people honestly have recent ancestry and they don't know about it. I've seen people who have an ancestor who came over from maybe the Caribbean in the late 1800s or early 1900s. And so they're actually maybe not from this country, or a lot of recent immigrants I know would maybe try to get the reparations, but they don't unfortunately qualify.
Like, it doesn't matter when your ancestor came from here or there, right? If you're experiencing something now. But the issue is not about now. It seems to be about restoring the past in a specific time period, specific qualifications. And so that's where things are like kind of dicey, right? Because we're not just talking about solving the inequality for people of color in 2023. One of the things I sent you, and I wanted to read the quote, was from an article. They said there's always a problem if the proposals designed or written in such a way that individuals who are, quote, currently living as white may have ancestors and would be eligible for Black reparations. So that's a potential problem, they're saying. The phrase living as white, like I'm an undercover Black person.
Just this weird obsession with a lot of people who identify as Black, who there's this weird obsession with, oh, there are those among us who are passing. And that's something still alive who were experienced. But
rounded up, put in a camp. Is it the same thing as slavery? No. But like we have these blights on our history, and then like how do we navigate like all of the people that have been wronged?
One of the many negatives is it could backfire, I think, because a lot of other minority groups are going to be like, well, what about us? And that could very well make them feel some sort of way toward Black people. Like, oh, wow, like, why are they always getting this? Or why do they get the reparations and there's nothing for us, and we were treated poorly as well.
Something needs to be fixed.
This changes everything we know about tinnitus. Neurologists have found that
does, and I think throwing money at it may not be, like you're saying, like maybe it helps a little, but yeah.
In terms of healing, I think there could be investments to put things in place that would actually help.
Like into the community, you mean?
Yeah, into the community.
Do you agree? I think at the end of the day, are you for or against reparations in this way?
I would say personally, I'm against like I guess what a lot of people think of when they think of reparations, like the money. I think there's a lot of like what we call like white guilt, where a lot of white people are like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. What do we do? How can we fix it? And it's just like, oh, well, like, let's just do this, like something, not for the Black community, but for themselves. Because then now they can free themselves of this guilty conscience and say, okay, well, we gave them money. So I did my, no more guilt. I feel great now. But then it's like, well, will that actually, have an effect? Will that actually do something? And I think why I'm also against reparations, I don't agree with it. And also because I have read a lot about slavery and I know how it worked. Black people and also people who were mixed race did engage in owning slaves. It was a business, and it was, obviously now in 2023, like it was like an evil business. It's difficult for me to agree and be for reparations when I don't think they're actually going to repair much. I do believe that a lot of people in, the community, specifically like the Black community, want to feel like they're the only group that had anything bad happen to them. And that's the common, even like growing up, I feel like that's kind of like how you feel like when you grow up like as a Black person, like, oh, that's what you hear at home a lot for a lot of people. I always mention to people, I'm like, well, this was originally indigenous land. And I always ask people, I'm like, when's the last time you saw someone who's fully indigenous?
Okay, any comments on that?
Shalom, this is Shalom. Yeah, I have a comment. When the young lady was speaking about her ethnic background and what have you, that old saying is one drop of black, then you're black. One drop of black blood, you're black, considered to be black. But the person who was saying about no, they don't feel that it should be, he obviously have not took into play that the white Westerners was not enslaved or anything, but they received money, land to start new,
Right,
where that could have been the blacks that were enslaved and now set free, the 40 acres and a mule to start new. And he just left that out.
right. Yeah, we was forced over here. Those people came on their own free will. We were forced over here, trapped, and caged, and brought over here. That's a big difference than when the other people that came here. They came on their own free will, taking a chance.
Shalom. That, now the modern, I'll say this time in age, they're looking at that they didn't do it. That's something that happened. And again, they put it 200 years, way back, which in 1864, I think, or 1865, that's not long ago.
Right, exactly.
That's just like saying inventing the water car or invention was some new invention that came about. They act like it's been here all the time, or it's something that you shouldn't worry about because it's here now. Let's just go from this point on. Let's not worry about the past. Don't try to fix the past. Let's just go on. And I feel that when Martin Luther King Jr. did the black and white hold hands, be as one, that part of it took the idea that, okay, it's over with. Slavery in the physical sense, with the chain around your neck and around your arm, your leg, that's gone. So let's just forget about that. We can be holding hands. We can live together and act as one. Now money comes about. Now they don't want it happening. They don't want them to receive it. Again, to me, like I said, it's just a smoke to put up for people to be engaged in looking at this fog, because on the other side, they're doing much damage. So we're worrying, well, not we are worrying, but the emphasis is on the money, on the reparation. Right now, they're talking about it, but I don't think that that should be our interest, because, like I said before, if it's all going digital, what's going to happen then?
Right. Yeah, you're making a point.
Shalom. I don't know what he's been listening to, videos he's been watching or whatever, but we could tell he was just totally off. And the
Yeah.
one thing, a couple of things he said that really caught my attention, that he feel as though it was just a business.
Right. Yeah.
You know, right,
Always been.
exactly.
Right.
Yes. And then he turned around and he said that how are the other people gonna feel? They're gonna feel as though, why are we always getting certain things and money and this and that. I don't know where he's getting his
Right,
information
right,
from.
exactly. Right.
Yeah,
We ain't got shit. We ain't gave us nothing.
right, exactly.
Right, exactly. And that's, believe it or not, you got a whole bunch of folks in that same kind of mindset where he is. That's what's the crazy part about it. Oh yeah. There's something. And then, like I was saying, that the lady was talking about, just like the other lady was saying, how that, you know, you got to go back and look at the video and see how they look their appearance. And she's saying that she don't need no reparations and she don't have that much, African blood or Negro blood in her. Well, why you talking about it then? Why you on here? Why you even talk about reparations? If you don't,
Right.
you don't need it or you ain't concerned about it. Why you why you talking about it? It's crazy. Make no sense. Anybody else? Okay, so yeah, we at the topic for discussion. Topic that's in the room is being pro-black. Uh, can you be pro-black and be in an interracial relationship? So we're gonna play a little bit and listen to it, get some feedback, and play a little more. We do it like that.
Okay, fine. My name is Ashley. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about whether or not you can be pro-black in an interracial relationship. But before we get into it, let me introduce you to my panel. To the left of me, I have Carl, Maxine, Bolarin, Uchechi, and Isan. And to my right, I have Hey Asante, Brittany, Donovan, Sheba, and Afiz. Welcome to the panel, everybody. Okay, so Mike Coulter, who plays Luke Cage on Luke Cage, got a lot of flack when he appeared on Movie News and presented the world with his white life. And Nate Parker also, before the whole rape allegation came out, there was a lot of talk of him and his white wife because people didn't know that he had a white wife. So I kind of just wanted to ask, can you be pro-black in an interracial relationship?
Absolutely. Yes.
You can.
Yes.
Why do you think so, Lamar?
Because it shouldn't affect what your thoughts are, your views are for being pro-black. I mean, who you love should have no reason to do with something like that. I mean, as long as the person that you love is not like the complete opposite, like, which would be weird anyway if the person you were in a racial relationship with was saying, Black lives don't matter and you were dating them, then it would be a problem. Like, a big conflict. But other than that, yeah, I mean, because she could be too. She could understand those rights as well.
Okay, Carl, you want to go ahead and take it away? Take it away?
I disagree completely. I mean, you can be for black people, but you can't be pro-black if you're in there.
It's the same thing, no?
Not necessarily. I mean, you could just, you like things right for black people, but your actions ain't reflected on. Like, people say a lot of stuff, but if you don't want to create black kids or see blackness reflected in your spouse, you don't necessarily value them. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand that. Don't get me wrong, I know there's occasions the military dude that went overseas met this woman he loved or whatever, and they got married. Like, I know there's like pockets of situations where that happens, but let's be honest, the majority of these relationships are based off of fetishes, and that it's not like that black dude dates a black girl that his next girlfriend's Spanish, his next girlfriend's Chinese, his next girlfriend's white. Chances are he just all his girlfriends are white. You know what I'm saying? Or all his girlfriends are this, or all her boyfriends are this. So when it gets to that situation where a person shows a pattern, I think that reflects a deeper underlying psychological issue, but we don't need to get into that.
And I also think we have to define what pro-black is as well.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, to be pro-black means that you actively want the advancement of black rights. And that's why me personally, I don't necessarily, when people get mad at white supremacy, I don't get upset at any group for having their own supremacy movement. I think we all should. I think we honestly should follow suit and find that own pride and love within our own people, as opposed to trying to appease and integrate with all these other cultures. That's just supremacy. I'm not saying via supremacy, but I'm just saying what's wrong. It's not. I'm just saying, like, if I have a business right now, I'm gonna try to hire black people before other people. That's just my. And I think like, everything you're saying. I think that's you know that, right? Yeah. Everything you're saying. Everything you're saying. White person saying that you do like, I wouldn't be like that. I wouldn't. I would understand the way I think of the situation.
I can't scream when I interrupt. Just let me interrupt. What he's saying is what every other race does. Every other race, they don't say it in public, but in private, they make sure that if they have their own business, they hire their own.
Okay. So nothing wrong.
Go ahead.
I agree on that aspect of the business, but you're trying to say that because, and I'm gonna put this out there, my boyfriend's not black, so I mean he's Italian. So does that mean that I'm not for black rights, or and you don't even know me? You know what I mean? You're just meeting me now. You don't know what I could have done in my life, or who I could have like went to, a march with or done just because I'm dating someone that I feel God sent for me and may not be of a darker skin complexion, but it makes me happy, and it just so happens that he's not the same color as me, so I'm not pro-black. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, what I'm saying is, like, is that your first white boyfriend?
Yeah.
So see, in a situation like that, if you're just, again, I understand people may happen to be attracted. I'm not saying I haven't seen a good-looking person of another race. No, I'm not taking it to that level. But in terms of who I decide I want to spend the rest of my life with, like who I want to marry, who I want to have kids with, I take certain considerations into effect, and I kind of want to preserve my blackness, and I want that reflected in my kids. I want that reflected in my spouse. Like, so I'm not saying this to say you're against black people, but I would question the degree of the pro-blackness, and I wouldn't necessarily put it on the same level as a person who I feel their actions reflect.
No
offense, not to say I'm an anti-integration brother, but you said that God sent you an Italian guy, right?
Yeah.
You're Nigerian, right?
No, I'm black.
You're black?
Yeah.
Okay. If you were not here, there'll be no Italian guy for you. This is only because you're in America. That's why Italian guys built to you.
Okay.
So he's saying God sent you that. That's not really.
Well, here's the thing. My whole life, here's the thing. Hold on. How many black men? How many black men do you know that actually wanted me? Let's put this. Let's put this out there. Let me put this out there. And I didn't purposely go out and seek a non-black man. I just prayed, and I'm like, I'm gonna be open to love, and that's just what happened. So like me growing up, I grew up from Atlanta in the South, feeling like, oh, you're too dark, or you're cute to be dark, or I don't like.
It's a stage of gold.
But it doesn't matter. So it's like,
no. What she's saying is that. What I think is saying is that as a black woman, you're saying that maybe your options weren't as vast with black men. You're not going to say no to a man who wants you for you, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Isan. I see everybody saying.
Okay. Anybody got any comments so far?
Shalom. I think that they really don't understand what pro-black means and really what stands behind that. It is that I choose black. You can date, another race if you choose to do that, but you're not pro-black, right? So if I, want to bring forth other, black kings and queens, I have to do that with a black man. You know what I'm saying? I can't bring forth a black king and his father is Italian.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I support black. I choose black. I'm not just black. I'm pro-black. And they don't have an understanding of that, but it is okay. And I noticed that during this conversation that they were having, if other races stick to their own race, that's good. that's a-okay.
Right.
But if we choose only black, they see a problem with that.
Exactly. It's racist.
Right.
Right. And then the biggest part about it is, like I said before, an Israelite. The Israelite, he's bound by the laws, by a covenant that he got with his God. So you can't. That conversation ain't got nothing to do with it. Israelite. He told us we can't marry, don't marry their sons and their daughters. You know what you're married. So you can't. You know what I mean? Can you imagine sitting there popping off at the mouth and after the Most High, Lord host give you those commandments?
Right.
So that's what I think that's where we err at. We don't understand who we are as a people, and we got
right.
laws that's surrounding us.
Right. We think that a lot of us think that we are just black people.
Right.
We're just black
like
people.
Everybody else.
Like everybody else. Right.
Like,
and you see that all throughout
like
camps.
Like the brother was saying about the Italian dude. Yeah, he can do that, but you can't. You can't jump over marrying on anybody. And then you disrespecting the fact of what the melanin is. So you saying that that's the gift he gave you with melanin? Then you turn around and marry somebody that don't have melanin, and then you handicapping your children.
Right.
You handicapping your children. So you got that's a lack of knowledge. It goes back to like I was saying before. People jump into conversations and feel like they got something to say, but don't know nothing about what's don't have no knowledge of it, nothing, and you feel like you got something to say,
Yes, sir. It's a lot deeper. Yeah. It's a lot deeper.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. So this Cheryl, what I'm seeing about when someone says pro-black or pro-white, it's about them. What happened in this scenario? They jump to relationship, they jump to having children or what have you. I see if you are for something, what is that something is? Now you pro-black and we're calling each other black, which James Brown put, I'm black and I'm proud. Jesse says, Reverend Jackson says, black, we're brown, we're not black. And if we go by continuing saying black in the law, black laws dictionary, that we don't have is foot to stand on, or ground to stand on, because we're considering ourselves black. When we look at the law, the government here, that's why when they go to court, they really don't get anything done because they say they're a black American, they're black. That word black takes me to a point we're not physically, what the word black means to the law. You need to really get into it because you're saying that. Again, when reparation comes about, they want everyone to come and say, well, I'm black. Yes, put down black, put down white, Hispanic or other when you're doing an application or something. So when you're saying you're black, that reparation, if it ever happens to come through, you're not receiving it. Like I said, it's just a fog, it's a smoke, because you're labeling yourself as a black person, where in the Constitution, black doesn't mean anything. You don't get anything. So it's more, like you said, Michelle and Brother Lawrence, it is more, it is deep. Just like we're doing the reading these words and breaking it down, it's real deep than just face, flesh. It's deeper than that. It's so deep that we just got to continue to get the meat and leave the bone and move on. That's my perspective of it. If I'm, enlighten me if I'm going down the wrong path, if you may.
Well, yeah, it's all good. When listening to the conversation, it reminds me of I don't know who watched it or who seen the movie or not, but it was what's the name of that movie? It was a slave movie, but these slaves caught on the ship, and then they ended up overtaking the captain on the ship, and they ended up
Amistad or something like that.
Amistad, and so they ended up in court. And so they was going through court. They had a lawyer, and then they got the ruling in their favor, and they thought that it was over with based on our language and our law and our words. And so they went and they was rejoicing and all that. But then the lawyer came and said that they have to go to the Supreme Court. And he said, "What you mean? The judge just made the ruling, and is it staying? Why we got to go to another court?" And then the guy said, "Yeah, in a normal situation, but woulda." And the African guy was saying, Sente said, "Woulda." It's no such word in our African language or in the Israelite language or in Africa for should, woulda, coulda, shoulda. All them words they don't apply in our language where we came from. So that sticks out to me. So it goes back to all the lies. That's like you got pretty much 90-some% of the world believe JC is the savior. But that's like water on a duck back though, because when prophecy come to pass, that ain't gonna mean nothing. They ain't gonna mean nothing. So whether they trick the words off or not, when the Most High prophecies come to pass, that ain't gonna work. They're gonna be like he said, they'll be ashamed. When he come back with the truth, they're gonna be ashamed. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And excuse me, Brother Leonard, one more thing. And if you look at it over time, right, job applications have changed, right? So me being in HR, human resources, right? You look at the applications now, it says African American, because for some reason they think that we're all Africans that have came over here. Now it's African American. So when you choose African American, right, and you work in that a certain industry, they get money for us for hiring so many African Americans, for hiring so many African American women.
Right.
You know, a lot of people don't know those things, but that is the reason why they give you that option to check that box. Even if you are veteran or non-veteran, you know what I'm saying? You have an option to choose that box because they're still getting money for us.
Right. They get money for veterans too.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So but that African American, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Jesse Jackson coined that word.
Yes, sir, he did.
Yeah, I think so too. Yes.
Okay.
But
and that's right in scripture. Go ahead.
Yes, and the money that they're receiving, none is going to that African American.
Right.
So they went on both sides, receiving and having them do the work for less than what they're worth.
Right. Yep, you're right.
Right. So in so many words, they got the government. It's a company, but the company don't have to pay that. If you hire African American, the government gonna pay that person. The company ain't got to pay him. So that's the only reason they would hire you. You know, I was trying to think of that other term that they had. It kind of went away over the last 5 years or so, but it was about hiring blacks they gave the blacks an upper hand when it came to hiring. I should think of the name of that.
Excuse me. I know back in the times they said if you had to get a black token on, as long as they have one per se black person in the office, one black person on the floor, then
Right.
it's all good.
Yeah, what's that term though? What's the term they had for that a legal term for it?
A census is like uh, I cannot think of, but it's sort of like a census that they do also in the I'll say in the office. They have to do a report every year on how many whites you have, how many Hispanics you have, how many blacks you have, and so forth, so that keeps you out of legal trouble just in case somebody files a EEO case against you. I know what you're talking about. I think of
Yeah, they were talking about it goes like you got a company looking for some college students, and so they called by this law. What I'm talking about is gives the black person, if you've been to HBC school, he gets he gets to go he gets a better chance at getting hired than any other race of people. I can't think of the name of that term. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't.
you're not
And
talking about internship, are you?
nah,
No.
when they didn't done away with that with it because it's almost like the critical race theory thing. Yeah, I can't think of it. It'll come to me. Yeah. Any more comments? I'm gonna play some more of this.
I think that the only way it can be problematic is I kind of piggyback over what Carl was saying, is that if you have an issue, like you can be pro-black and only date another race. If you just so happen to, like, let's say for instance, I've always dated black women, and I just can't happen to come across a female I kind of like and she wasn't black. Does that now, was I pro-black prior to me not dating this woman? Like I've always the same. I've been the same person. I just kind of, I kind of came across someone.
I think for me, part of being pro-black means knowing what's going on in the black community, right? So I'm just gonna say, if I were a black man and I know already black women are having issues, securing relationships, I'm gonna keep that in mind when I'm out here dating. But just like black women keep in mind the things that black men are going through, they do certain stuff. So for me, like they might date a man who's an ex-con because they know a lot of black men might have a history of that. So like I'm gonna look past that. Because I know I want a man, I want a black man. So I think there needs to be consideration for me personally. That's how I
completely agree. But I'm just saying, if I just sincerely and genuinely just came across some person randomly, I've never intended on dating someone outside of my race. I personally love black women. I've never really dated anybody outside of black women. I have a black woman now. So, but I'm just saying, like, this is hypothetically speaking. If I were to come across someone, it was just like a genuine situation. I don't think that I'm any less pro-black because, you know what I mean? I think that I'm still pro-black. I just happen to be in an isolated situation that I fell in love with someone that wasn't black.
I think people get too caught up on the wrong thing. Like we compartmentalize and we put things on the table in different ways. If I wanted to, full disclosure, I'm a black gay man. So dating is already gonna be all over the place and different anyway. Let's pretend I date all sorts of men. Full disclosure, I don't date white men. I just don't. Let's pretend I have been dating black, Spanish, Asian, and then I get me a white boyfriend. P.S. I'm pro-black as fuck. So if I can find a way to date a white person and just be pro-black as hell, I don't think that it's gonna have anything to do with the way my kids look. It's gonna have anything to do with the way that they fight, if they fight, because it's on me and how I handle what goes on in my community and the fight that I want to have. I could be pro-black as fucking between the black and the white community in this country and all over the world, as a matter of fact. But I think that what happens is the residual effect of that is amongst certain black people is that this is damaging. We need to just be about us because look what they do. And I understand that, right? We can all attest to understanding how dark-skinned people are treated versus white people and then the people in between. We know that there are differences. But I was like, wow, like, I have to take this level, I have to raise my level of consciousness around this particular issue, right? So for me, I've always been attracted to black men, right? However, I scare people in general. It's just something.
In the time of the city, all the black men came in, they're not with black women. To me, that's to all of them. No, it's more than fine. And for me, I'm saying that's not love. That's not love for yourself. That's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. So go ahead, Carl. Then Maxine.
I'm sorry. Just to kind of piggyback off what you had mentioned last time, you had mentioned the theme of like when you were back in Atlanta, you said with it.
It's like all life.
Where like around black men, where you were maybe too dark for them. See, that's the thing. In a lot of these interracial relationships, you kind of find that theme reoccurring. So there's always some sort of background of, there's always some sort of background where there's maybe have been a complex with your own personal relationship with your own skin. So, and I'm not trying to say this like to come at you. What I'm saying is that when you see certain themes reoccurring, you really have to question if these relationships are really genuine or they're just results of a compromise of a situation. Because, maybe most of the black guys that I met think I'm too dark. So you know what, I'll try it with this white guy as opposed to maybe I'll wait for the black guy that does think my dark skin is good enough for him.
I wasn't even thinking about.
No, I'm just saying, but I'm saying that's.
But that's not what always, I get what you mean. Like, for some people it is that. It's like, all right, I'm done with black men. They don't want me. Or same thing, I'm done with black women. They got attitudes, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I get that. But there are people who genuinely found someone that just so happened to be of a fair complexion.
And I don't dispute that. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. What I'm saying is that's not the majority of them. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. There will be pockets of people of different races who really found true love, however they met each other. But the majority of these relationships are based off of inner psychological issues with that person in their skin.
I agree. Go ahead, Maxine.
I was just going to say, I agree with Donovan that we're like people too broad a brush, because I think we need to make a distinction between someone who verbally shows self-hate, a black man saying, I don't like to date dark-skinned women, and someone who accidentally falls in love. I'm half black, half Puerto Rican. My father dated all black women until he met my mom accidentally. They shared an experience of growing up in the system of being in foster care and stuff like that. And one of the women that my mom was in the group home with happened to be my dad's sister, so they got introduced. It wasn't, it was
intentional.
It wasn't, yeah. And so I think we have to make a distinction between people who, but unfortunately, people in those relationships get looked at like, oh, and that's not fair to them.
But you're still black.
Yeah, I don't want to consider Puerto Rican or black.
Well, you know, I
but you have to see her mom.
No, I'm saying at the end of the day. But I personally, at the end of the day,
well, there's a white person too.
You have to see how I grew up and what it felt like to be.
Why don't you explain it?
Just to clarify, I was just saying, I wouldn't even, me personally, I wouldn't consider that.
It is though.
Because I don't view Puerto Ricans as a race. Puerto Ricans are nationality.
But there's a white Puerto Rican, there's all Native Americans, there's Latinos,
it's kind of complicated. Like for example, I'm Nigerian. You gotta find a Nigerian person with the same faith, same tribe, and I gotta add color scheme too. It's a lot of layers.
But who's saying that you have to?
No, I'm saying we wanted to say pro-black. I'm pro-black, yes, whatever. But I'm saying it's a lot of complex to it. Like, you gotta find a Nigerian girl, educated, looks good. That's Yoruba, and also gotta find if she's dark skin or she's light skin. It's a lot. That's all I'm saying. So like, if you find somebody, no. I'm just saying. I'm just keeping generic rules, like Nigerian, Yoruba, probably same religion, educated and good person. Then she's the light skin dark. That's a lot of different markers to achieve. So I'm saying you find somebody that's black, whatever, and happens to be same mind, it's good. But you can't say now I gotta find a dark skin person too, my skin color. I'm saying
I don't think we're saying that, but I think we're saying that I think what I'm saying is that relationships a lot of times don't happen in their vacuum. Like, we live in this great world. I like you and you like me. A lot of times who we gravitate towards and who we're attracted to is what we've been taught and what we've been told.
Should be based after because we are attracted to a lot of people. But who we choose to actually interact with based on our interaction is based off of truth.
And also for men, who men choose to have kids with too. A lot of that I've seen. Exactly. Listen, 70% of Nigerian women lose their skin. Okay, I have a friend who was supposed to be here today. She did a survey. She was in Lagos. She asked.
But only us want to be
You can now speak any language anywhere in the world thanks to this new device.
Okay.
Let me go.
So what I want to say about that is that what's holding, we're talking about Asians as if they're Indians. Indians are Asians, and so various Asian countries, what's holding them together is actually their culture. So Nigerians are very serious about marrying within their communities. Ghanaians are very serious about marrying within their communities. South Africans, if you go to even it's the culture that's keeping them together. Now, if you come to America, white people tend to marry white people because you tend to marry people that you're around often. So it's not that it's like people are pushing an agenda and black people are just like, not only did slavery occur and colonization occur, but it's also, so not to say that there's a bit of like, I feel like that comparison is kind of like a false equivalency sometimes because there's a culture combining the two. So when we say black people, there's so many different types of black people, and there are black people in their whole thing is to preserve their, like, it's going to be very difficult for my mother to accept that I'm not marrying a Nigerian. It's very difficult, very absolutely difficult for her to this one, because how can I? And she told me, she's like, it hurts her feelings. So like, you know, and this is where I'm torn.
Is that also even if it was someone that was outside of the, if they were black but outside of that?
Oh, she's not trying to.
She's not with that. Okay.
So it's just like, so, and this is where I'm torn, because I know, I was raised in America, and this is where things get a little difficult for me. I was raised in America. I was around American men. I was raised a lot of men besides Nigerian men. So I'm attracted to men outside, and I wish because of the fact that, you know, it's going to make culture easy for my children and stuff like that, I'd love to marry Nigerian. So, but the likelihood is that might not happen. So now, when I think of that, and granted, race is different from this, but when I think of that, and then I kind of like, okay, what about people who have, like, you know, there are people who grew up around white people their whole lives, or like or people who dated somebody who was outside of their race, and then, you know, gained a consciousness later on in life. Like, what about those people? Like, how do I? And this is where I think I find myself torn, because I understand why people would not consider somebody not to be pro-black when they're outside of their relation. But at the same time, it's just like, well, what about, like, I think one of the things I've always said is that I don't care who I marry. My children are going to be as Igbo as they come. Like, they're going to learn the culture, they're going to learn the language, they're going to learn the music, they're going to learn the food. Like, and it's something that I will discuss with whoever my mate is, because I need that to be something that they have to be on board with. And this is where, and like I said, we're not in a vacuum. So it's like, I don't know how his family would react to that. Like, you know, maybe his mother's not interested, his mother would not be interested in a woman who's marrying an Igbo woman or something like that.
They're not, that's not the man for you.
So, right, exactly. So it it's a lot more complex than we try to make.
We have to wrap up soon.
I have a question and then somewhat of an answer. Did anyone ever see like all those pictures about Bernie Sanders when he was rallying with African Americans? Would you consider him pro-black at all?
Actually, he has a neighbor complex, but that's another conversation.
Do you think he's?
I don't know. I've never had a conversation with Bernie Sanders. I don't know.
So my whole thing is, I think that identifying.
I think a lot of people would.
It takes more than that.
It does, but I do think that
he's contributed to black rights.
I think that's
calling pro-black, bro.
Yes, because I think there are some. I think that there are. This world is very vast. There's a lot of us. I think it's safe to say that there are some people who are not black that are more pro-black than black people. There are some white people that probably do more for black people than other black people. I don't do anything for black people, so I think that's safe to say. I don't.
Okay. You comment?
It sounds like a group of young people, you know, that don't know their history. They don't know who they are. They don't know what is actually going on in reality when it comes to when they talk about mixing the different races, and it's more than just mixing the races. It's coming together with the curse that has been, you know, put out there because of the melanin and because of the, you know, disobedience. So they're trying to in this day and age rationalize, justify having a relationship outside of their kind, and that it's okay, and that it'll be okay, and it's all right. Is they are without knowledge, so it's
millennials.
Yes,
right, exactly. Like that word I was looking for was affirmative action.
Oh, okay, got you. I was saying the young lady that was speaking and saying that that she was raised in America, and whenever she decides to get married, that they have to understand her culture, right?
Right.
But if you marry within your culture, it's already understood. Um, it's just, to me, like I said, it's a whole lot deeper than you know what they are speaking on and speaking about. As Hebrew Israelite men and women, you totally look at things different than the average black person. So, just an example, if you are Israelite man or woman, you would not be able to have relations with someone that is still in the worldly sauce. That's two different, you know, you're on two different pages there. So that's not gonna work. And that's the way I was viewing that when she was speaking on finding a mate.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna close with this right here for kind of information. Telling the black women. Okay.
When I'm on the go, it's often much easier.
Being born a Black woman means we are born with the responsibility to live our entire existence in resistance. Resistance to the boxes and the lines, resistance to the Black woman can't designs, resistance that she must excel but then step aside, resistance to the coughing and then choking on the lies, resistance to the constant game of seek and hide while the gamers trade her currency, her dignity and pride, because she learned this transaction as a child. And what we see is not for us. And that includes the system of injustice. And the reality of the responsibility makes the Black woman scream, and it invades all her thoughts and consumes all her dreams, both at nighttime and the ones she used to have in the sun. Being born a Black woman means we are born with a responsibility to live our entire existence in resistance. The responsibility to stand up and ball up a fist and shout this is bullshit until somebody listens and then move like the queen that she is on her mission. Black woman, you forgot your crown because you had your head lowered down and it fell to the ground. Pick it up and polish it till it's shiny and bright, deflecting that fight and projecting the light of your God-given rights. Resistance. Persistence. Thank God for your existence. Dear Black woman, let's talk about healing. Why? Because when I read the fourth draft of my TEDx talk to my mother, she responded, Angie, you're right. We didn't know we could cry or heal or any of that. Therapy wasn't something that Black women even considered because we were always so, well, strong. She paused for a moment, and I saw a moment of reflection as she said, we carried a lot. This experience with my mother, this exchange that we were having was so powerful that it transformed the TEDx talk I give to you this evening. As I was preparing this presentation, the ongoing dialogue that I was having with Black women in this province continued to validate the reason we need to have this conversation. Healing was beginning to resonate with my 74-year-old mother. It was resonating in a way that it has never resonated before. And as she sat in my bedroom in the chair that night, we had a conversation about healing that I can only categorize as magic. That experience was the actual outcome I was hoping for as a result of the talk this evening. And if even one person was moved to acknowledge that they had been carrying trauma, then this talk would be successful. I can't imagine the psychological burden of our foremothers to suck up their trauma, but I know the burden that I carried was heavy. Now, it doesn't mean that the crystal isn't strong, but that everyone has a breaking point. Healing gave me life. And as I was going through this personal, emotional freedom, I wanted every Black woman to experience this freedom of setting boundaries and just knowing her absolute worth. Carrying the strong Black woman burden is so heavy, but you don't have to. You can put it down. I want to challenge each of us to move forward together in a healthier direction, in a fearless direction, one where we put our self-care and our wellness and our healing to the forefront, one where we redefine the Black woman's strength as having the courage to unpack and heal from her trauma. Let's put an end to the survival eras and begin the process of living. Let's talk about healing. Let's talk about feeling. But whatever we do, let's not stop talking. Thank you.
Okay. With that being said, anybody got any comments before we go?
Shalom, this is Cheryl. Yeah, she's right. You got to heal. You Black woman, Black man, you got to heal from whatever's holding you back to proceed forward. Because if you carry, it's like carrying the baggage. And if you continue to have a little here, a little there, I'm going to use Erica Badu, you're going to become a bad person, carrying too much and unable to move forward and swiftly like you need to.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna say shalom right there, and I'll see everybody tomorrow at 8 o'clock for our Friday night class.
Okay.
Shalom.
Shalom.
What you say?
Are we going to pick up on Genesis 11?
Say it again.
Genesis 11. Genesis 11. Chapter
Tomorrow?
11. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can incorporate it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.